I started doing a little bit of research in terms of where the wine industry was in Maryland, and then I found something incredibly exciting, that there's this kind of incredible renaissance that happened in the wine industry here after the Maryland Winery Modernization Act in 2010, that basically started allowing wineries to sell directly, which is the heart of any small winery. I also saw that there was already a kind of understanding of the soil and the climate in this region, that people were already moving towards not trying to replicate California wines, which I think has been the great mistake of a lot of East Coast wineries, but rather that they were looking more to places with more similar climate and soils, like Bordeaux. And but we saw the place, we fell in love with the place. They had a beautiful Almshouse in the back that was all ruins, and a vineyard that had been planted in 2012. We fell in love with the town of Chestertown, and we figured that this was the place, you know. So we just kind of pulled the trigger on that. I think that the wine industry is in Maryland is a remarkable example of a true communitarian approach to business. The reality is that we work with many farmers to very closely throughout the year to get the best grapes, and then we make our wine at the facilities, at Crow's facilities. And what's very cool about, with our own winemaker and everything, but what's very cool is that there is this kind of full integration where we're there every day during harvest and during processing, and we very often, you know, will sort grapes together and stuff and things like this. So there's also a lot of overflow of knowledge and practices. The kind of wine that we aspire always to make is more of an old world style wine, which I think is much more appropriate for the region, for the climate and the soil. You're never gonna get the kind of ripeness here that you get in California, right? And that if you're trying to make a Californian wine, that's a problem. If you're not trying to make a Californian wine, well, that's a blessing. The dream is always to become a state winery, you know, where you kind of have 100% control of your production. That takes several very significant investments. What is really nice about the way that the laws are set up, with so much of the help of the Maryland Wineries Association and of several industry leaders, is that there's a way in which you can start a business without that very strong initial capital, say by buying some grapes from other local vineyards and by doing what's called an alternate proprietorship at another winery, where you basically rent out their facilities and make your wine there, right? It's fascinating because it is in some ways the best of the old world and the best of the new, right? These are also ancient practices, you know, that people would share facilities to make wines. It's nice to see that in the 21st century there are models embedded into the law that allow people to start a business this way, right? With kind of little overhead, low capital expenditures. I don't want to have a buyer-seller relationship with my clients and that's it, but really more of a kind of an ongoing friendship. And this is why we named it Casa Carmen, right? Because it's casa in you know, the Spanish version of chateau, right? But the idea is that it is a house that produces this, right? It is a family, it is a house that produces this. For us, it is a family business, and we aim to look. We don't just want to get product off of our hands, right? The product represents who we are and what we do, and what I like is to kind of keep in touch with the people that are interested in our product and to have an ongoing relationship with them. So on the one hand, we have an approach to sales that is more relational, I would say, than transactional. And I really like it that way. I mean, I have the model in my head of a kind of a Mediterranean lifestyle. I love the kind of the middle class Mediterranean lifestyle where you live consuming the products that the aristocracy wishes that they would consume, but it's not because you have money, but because you make them. Yeah. you know, so kind of having beautiful vegetables in the vegetable garden, and making your own excellent wine, and honestly being here, restoring this historic property, and just being here for people that want to come and be a part of the family. And just